My name is Derek Lambden, and I'm going to give my presentation today on Francisco Goya's painting, the 3rd of May, 1808. Goya finished this painting in 1814, and it is a oil-based paint on a canvas. Before I get to talking too much about the painting itself, I should probably go into detail about the history behind the painting. Napoleon led the conquistadors through Europe, conquering different countries, and decided he wanted to overtake Spain for his brother Joseph Bonaparte. So Napoleon made a deal with King Charles IV in that they would become allies so Napoleon could overtake Portugal. Little did King Charles IV know that Napoleon's true intentions were to overthrow Spain. Napoleon then led 100,000 troops into Spain. Napoleon soon made his intentions clear to King Charles IV when Napoleon overthrew his monarchy and placed his brother Joseph Bonaparte on the throne. On May 2nd, 1808, the Spanish began an uprising. On May 3rd, 1808, Napoleon sent his troops to kill the freedom fighters of Spain. And the painting of May 3rd, 1808 is what Francisco Goya is how he depicted that day. So, from first glance of the painting, we see the soldiers standing there pointing the guns at the Spanish. They look like they're backed up against the wall, like they don't really have anywhere to go, but there's a lot more to that painting than what meets the eye. And if you really pay attention, you can see that the feet of the soldiers are, their stance is the same. They're all in a line. They look, you can't see their faces. They're hooded, and their clothes are a little bit different than what the Spanish are. It kind of portrays the fact that they look more like robots. It kind of takes the human perspective out, the emotional perspective, and shows more of a ruthless, more of a like, they don't really care they're there for one thing, and that's to conquer Spain. Well, on the other hand, you had the Spanish, who you can see the pile of the dead Spaniards laying there on the bottom left-hand corner, and then you have you see the faces of them, so there's a lot of emotion. You can see some of them look like they're praying. The guy to the left kind of looks like he's knelt down praying, and then on the far side of the guy standing up looks as if he's crying. So there's a lot of emotion portrayed on the Spaniards' faces. There's also a lot of Christian iconography in the painting. If you notice the guy with his arms up, looking as if he's surrendering, that he's wearing a white shirt and the lantern is facing towards him. You can see how much more light there is shining on him than there is anybody else in the painting. This kind of shows his innocence, and he's very representational of what some would say Jesus Christ, because he's got his arms out like as if he's being hung on a cross. And if you look really closely, you can see there's a little dimple in his right hand, his right palm, and where Jesus had his hands nailed to the cross, it kind of follows the same lines as that. If you look at his face, you can see a lot of sadness rather than terrified or scared, like unlike the other Spanish faces. They look more sad or scared or terrified rather than the saddened look that you have on his face. More like he's been let down and betrayed. And so Goya tied in a lot of Christianity into this painting, and there's a lot of symbolism. If you look at the light versus dark, you can see that obviously the Spaniards are more lit up and then than the conquistadors. This also takes a lot of the emotion out of the conquistadors. It gives us more of a view of just ruthlessness. And if you notice the wall behind the Spaniards, it kind of looks like they're trapped or backed against the wall. This wall kind of represents the executionist wall. Whenever people were executed, they were lined up against the wall and shot. Since I've talked about the 3rd of May 1808, I feel like I should talk about the other half of the painting, the 2nd of May 1808, which was painted by Francisco Goya. It was also an oil-based paint on canvas, and it was also finished in 1814. Both paintings were painted within a 2-month time period, and both of them depict the Peninsular War and how Goya viewed it. The 2nd of May 1808 was very gory, as you can tell. It looks like there was a big war. This is taken in a street where the Spanish and the French fought. So it's a little bit different view than what the 3rd of May is, in that it shows more of them fighting rather than the Spanish looking more as if they were entrapped or slaughtered, you could say. So with that being said, I'd like to finish up with my conclusion. I really like how Goya draws the viewer's attention to the Spanish, and how when I first seen this painting, I took sides with the Spanish, even though I didn't know anything about the Peninsular War. I felt intrigued by seeing the emotion in their faces, and I like how he portrays the conquistadors emotionless, ruthless, how he can change our view of our perspective is something that I for one knew nothing about until I did research the topic and the painting itself.